Assalamu alaikum. Hope all of you are fine and safe at the home. We're going to start with the histology of the urinary system. In this lecture, we'll discuss what are the functions of the kidneys or the urinary system, the structure of the kidney, the various parts of a nephron. Then, to understand the histology, we should understand the blood supply of the kidney, then histological features of the renal corpuscles, the visceral layers of the Bowman's capsule, what is the glomerular filtration barrier and mesenterium. So then we'll continue with the next lecture. Urinary system, as you know, consists of a paired kidneys, paired ureter, a urinary bladder, and the urethra. So the system helps to maintain or the functions of the basically the urinary system is a complex system. It's a complex combination of processes that involves the filtration of the cellular waste from the blood, selective reabsorption of the water and the solutes, the excretion of the waste and the excess water as urine, regulate the fluid and electrolyte balance of the body, and also it produces a glycoprotein hormone, the erythropoietin, which stimulates the erythrocytes. Then is the hydroxylation of the vitamin D to an active form, that is 1,2,5 dihydroxyvitamin D3 or calcitriol, which is involved in the regulating the calcium balance. So kidney, they are the bean-shaped structure which have the convex surface and a concave surface, which is called the hilum, and it has two poles, an upper pole and a lower pole. At the hilum, you can see the renal artery. It enters the parenchyma of the kidney, and the renal vein and the ureter. Uh, uh, it leaves at the hilum. The ureter, as it enters into the hilum, it is a dilated portion here, which is called the pelvis, and this undergoes the several subdivisions of the major and the minor calyces. Now, surrounding these each minor calyx, there is a renal sinus which is filled with the adipose tissue. Now, at the tip of you can see also that the section of a kidney, it can be easily demarcated into the outer cortex and the inner medulla, and they can be grossly seen also. Now, at the tip of the minor calyx, there is a conical projection of the renal medulla, which is called the renal pyramid, and it is delimited on each side by the cortex. Now, the renal pyramid, along with its cortical portion, it constitutes a renal lobe. So these cortical portions, they are also called surrounding these renal pyramids, they are also called the renal columns. Now, this cortical surface is covered with and the hilum, they are covered by the fibrous capsule. So we have discussed this structure. Now this is a diagram showing you one of the the pyramid. This is an outer cortex and inner medulla. Now you can see the nephron, which is the structural and the functional unit of the kidney. They are present in this cortical portion, and their loops, they are extended into the medulla, which are forming the medullary. They form the medullary rays. So there are about 1 to 4 millions of these nephrons in the kidney, in each kidney. So there are two types of the nephrons, the cortical nephrons. The cortical nephrons, they lie at the margins of the cortex and the medulla. They have short loops of the Henle, and they do not extend much into the medulla. Whereas the juxtamedullary nephrons, they have the long loops of the Henle, which constitutes the medullary rays. Now you can see here that these cortical this cortex has the all the nephrons, which starts from the renal corpuscles, then is the proximal convoluted tubule and the straight portion, the loop of the Henle, then distal convoluted tubule, and then all the collecting tubules, they open into the collecting ducts. Now these collecting ducts, they open at the papillary duct, and into the renal papilla, and this renal papilla opens up into the minor calyx, and from the minor calyx into the major calyces, and then the pelvis and the urine is carried to the ureter. So these are all the parts of a nephron, which is the structural and functional unit of the kidney. And as we have said, there are 1 to 4 millions of the nephrons in each kidney. So they starts with the different parts of the nephron. So it starts with the renal corpuscle, which constitutes the glomerulus and the Bowman's capsule, and then is the proximal convoluted portion, then this and the straight portion of the proximal tubule, then is the Henle's loop, which has a thick and thin portions, and then is the distal tubule, which has also a straight portion and a convoluted portion, and then they open into the collecting tubules, and all the collecting tubules they gather in the collecting ducts. So nephron plus their collecting ducts, they constitutes the urinary ferrous tubule. So the blood supply of the kidney, you can see here the coronal view shows the major blood vessels of the kidney, the microvasculature components extending into the cortex and medulla from interlobular vessels. They are shown on the right side. These pink boxes, they indicate the vessels with the arterial blood, whereas these blue boxes, they indicate the blood, venous blood, and these intervening lavender boxes are the intermediate sites where the most reabsorbed material re-enters the blood. So the renal artery enters at the hilum, and it divides into 2 to 3 segmental arteries at the base of these renal pyramids. Then these segmental arteries divides into the interlobar arteries, which run between the renal pyramids, and at the base of the pyramid they arch over the pyramid and forms the arcuate arteries. The arcuate arteries gives off the branches the interlobular arteries. The interlobular arteries which pass into the substance of the cortex, and then they divides into the efferent arterioles, which forms the glomerulus, and then the efferent arterioles, which leaves the glomerulus. So you can see here the peritubular capillaries, which are associated with these convoluted tubules and the vasa recta formation. And then the venous drainage again through there is the, so in these areas there is a maximum exchange of the which takes place in these areas in the peritubular capillaries and the vasa recta formation. So then the venous blood is again through the interlobular veins, then arcuate veins and the interlobar veins, and then they are carried out by the renal veins to join the internal jugular vein. So a nephron, which starts at each part of the nephron, it starts at the renal corpuscle, and this renal corpuscle, it always lies in the cortex. So the renal corpuscle consists of the tuft of the capillaries, which are present or housed in a bulbous capsule, which is called the Bowman's capsule. It is a double layered epithelial capsule, and this 2 layers of the epithelium of the Bowman's capsule, they are called the visceral layer and the parietal layer. The parietal layer, it lines the outside of the Bowman's capsule, and it is composed of the simple squamous epithelium, whereas the visceral layer has this specialized cells, which are called the which is a complex visceral layer, is very complex, and it has the special cells called the podocytes, which cover each capillary, and they form the filtration slits and interdigitating processes called the pedicles. So the blood enters into the glomerulus through these afferent arterioles, and it leaves through the efferent arterioles. So in between the 2 limbs of these afferent and efferent arterioles, you can see the distal portion of the distal convoluted tubule portion, which is in between this, and they form here the macula densa cells. So this area is called the vascular pole, whereas the other pole where the urine leaves here through the proximal convoluted tubule, this is called the urinary pole or the tubular pole. So between the two layers of the epithelium, that is the visceral layer and the parietal layers of the Bowman's capsule, is a space which is called the urinary space or the capsular space. So all the glomerular filtrate is collected in this capsular space or the urinary space. So this is a photomicrograph showing you the glomerulus with special stains, and you can see the closely associated cells of the visceral layer also here. This is the thick basement membranes of the glomerular capillaries, and they also contain the collagen type 4, and also shown are the simple squamous epithelial cells of the Bowman's capsule, and there is also the vascular pole where the arterioles they enter the corpuscle, and the macula densa cells they are shown here. So this is a photomicrograph showing you the renal cortex, and the renal cortex, it is always characterized by the presence of the renal corpuscles, which constitutes the glomerulus and the Bowman's capsule. So you So, and the proximal tubules and the distal tubules can also be appreciated in these cortical portion of the kidney. This is again showing you the photomicrograph, the major histological features of the renal corpuscle, as you can see also in your slides also. So this is the glomerulus. You can see the capillary endothelial cells and the blood cells between the capillaries, and also these are the nuclei of the capillary endothelium and the podocytes and other cells which are called the mesangium. We'll discuss later. This is a capsular space or the urinary space. Now this vascular pole can also be identified, the distal tubule, the macula densa cells, and also this urinary pole or the tubular pole, which is you can see identify here with the proximal convoluted tubule. And this is Bowman's capsule lined with the parietal layer with the simple squamous epithelium. Now the visceral layer of the Bowman's capsule, and this layer is a very specialized layer. It consists of the special type of the cells which are called the podocytes. These podocytes, they have a cell body, and they give off the numerous tentacles or the processes which surrounds the capillaries from the outside. And this podocytes processes, they give off the secondary processes which are called the pedicles or the foot processes. Now these pedicles or the foot processes, they surround the capillaries, and they develop the numerous secondary processes also. Now these foot processes, they interdigitate with the foot processes of the other pedicle, and it forms the filtration slits in them. And this is showing you the capillary endothelium, and now you can appreciate this is the fenestrated capillaries of the glomerulus, so that the filtrate can easily pass through these fenestrations. So this is the fenestrated capillary endothelium. Then is the foot processes interdigitating with each other of the pedicles. These are the pedicles, and the cell body of a pedicle. Now, this electron filtration slits can be easily visualized by the electron micrograph. So you can see here the elongated spaces between the interdigitating foot processes, they called the filtration slits. And they are 40 nanometer wide, and they are covered by ultra thin filtration slit diaphragm that spans the filtration. Now this is another important structure which can be seen with the electron microscope. Now you can see this is the glomerular filtration barrier is formed here, and this diagram showing you the cell bodies of the two podocytes, and then you can see at this corner is the capillary endothelium with the fenestrations and another podocytes, and this is a capillary also capillary, showing you the wall capillary endothelium, and this is the urinary space where all the glomerular filtrate will enter into this space. So the glomerular filtration barrier consists of the three-layered components: the fenestrated capillary endothelium, the glomerular basement membrane, the filtration slits between the podocytes, and the major component of the filter is formed by the fusion of the basal lamina of the podocytes and the capillary endothelial cells. So filtrate is produced in the corpuscle when the blood plasma is forced under pressure across the filtration membrane of the glomerular capillary wall and through the filtration slits between the pedicles of the podocyte processes. So together these openings, they allow the filtration of the liquid from the plasma into this urinary space of the Bowman's capsule. Now this is at a higher magnification. You can very clearly visualize this filtration barrier, glomerular filtration barrier. So you can see at the arrowhead is the capillary endothelium, and the filtration slit, you can see at this, these are the filtration slits at the arrows which is separating the pedicles of the two sides, and they are fused basal lamina, that is the capillary endothelium and the pedicles foot processes. So this is the fused basal lamina. So endothelial fenestrations in glomeruli, they lack the diaphragms, but they are very thin slit diaphragms cross the space between the pedicles, and they play an important role in the process of the filtration. Now this is a schematic diagram showing you the interrelationship of the podocytes, the capillary endothelium, and the mesangial cells. So you can see that this is a endothelial cell of the capillary, and outside the podocyte is covering it, this capillaries from the outside with all its pedicles, and forming the foot processes, and these are foot processes which interdigitate with the foot processes, and they are the fenestrations or the filtration slits they are formed, and there are fenestrations in the capillary endothelium you can see here. And these are the mesangial cells along with the mesangial matrix, which we'll discuss, we're going to discuss now. So now you can see here, now you can better understand and recognize various structures now here, that these are the glomerular capillaries, the parietal layer of the Bowman's capsule, the simple squamous epithelium, and now this is the vascular pole, and this is the tubular pole or the urinary pole. Now you can see here that in between the cells of the uh, capillary endothelium, there are another type of the cells which are located here, which are called the mesangial cells. Now these mesangial cells, they are also are present in between these afferent and efferent arterioles, where they constitute the extra mesangial cells. So they are called the extraglomerular mesangial cells. So in close proximity with their macula densa cells, they change their configuration and they are modified, where they are called the Lassus cells or the juxtaglomerular cells. So these mesangial cells, they have very important role and functions to perform, which we'll discuss. Now you can see here that this dark eosinophilic area, the large eosinophilia, you can see here. This is because of the mesangial cells are the mesangium, the cytoplasm of the mesangium, which is deeply eosinophilic here. So the mesangium, the renal corpuscles, contains an additional group of cells called the mesangial cells. These cells and their extracellular matrix, they constitute the mesangium. So it is more prominent at the vascular stalk of the glomerulus, at the interstitials of the adjoining glomerular capillaries. So mesangial cells, they are positioned as the pericytes in that they are enclosed by the glomerular basement membrane. The mesangial cells, they are not confined entirely to the renal corpuscle. Some are located outside the corpuscle along the vascular pole, where they are also designated as the Lassus cells, and they form the part of the juxtaglomerular apparatus. So what are the functions of the mesangial cells? The major functions of the mesangial cells is the phagocytosis and the endocytosis. So mesangial cells, they remove the trapped residues and aggregated proteins from the glomerular basement membrane and the filtration slit diaphragms. Thus, it keeps the glomerular filter free of debris. Then also they provide the structural support. So they produce the components of mesangial matrix. They provide the support for the podocytes in the areas where the epithelial basement membrane is absent or incomplete. Now these mesangial cells, they also secrete a variety of the molecules like the interleukins, prostaglandins, and the platelet-derived growth factors. And these substances or the molecules, they play a central role in the response to the glomerular injury or the inflammatory processes. So the modulation of glomerular distension. The mesangial cells, they also function in regulating the glomerular distension in response to the increased blood pressure. Now this is a diagram, a beautiful diagram showing you the interrelationship of the podocytes which are surrounding these capillaries from the outside, and the mesangial cells along with their mesangial matrix. You can see they are covering the basement membrane or the space between the two capillary endothelial cells. Now this is electron micrograph showing you all the components. The mesangial cells, you can see here the mesangial cells along with the mesangial matrix. The matrix appears similar in many places, continuous with the basement membrane. And the matrix helps to support these capillary loops where the podocytes, they are lacking. So you can see here that this is the podocyte. So the mesangial matrix is holding the two capillary loops. The mesangial cells, they also extend their processes which are showing you with the arrows around the capillaries, which may affect their state of contraction. So some mesangial cells, they appear to pass between the endothelial cells and into the capillary lumen, and where they help to remove or endocytose adherent protein aggregates. That is, they will clear the filtration barriers or the filtration slits from the cellular debris or the protein debris. So the capillary at the left, you can see here there is an erythrocyte and a leukocyte also present in this capillary, and the podocytes with their pedicles, they open into the urinary space and associate with the capillary surfaces not covered by the mesangial cells. So this is a beautiful interrelationship of all these cells. The mesangial cells, which with their mesangial matrix, they holds the basement membranes of the two capillaries or the loops of the capillaries, and these podocytes along with their pedicles, they cover the capillaries from the outside. And this mesangial matrix, this mesangial cells, they extend their processes into the lumen of the capillaries also to clear the filtration slits, and this all the filtrate will pass through this filtration barrier, and then it will enter into this urinary space, from where it is carried to the tubular pole at the proximal convoluted tubule. So this is for today, all about the today's lecture, and we'll continue with the proximal convoluted tubule in the next lecture. Thank you.